Hey everyone, it's CJ from Wintuition MTG, and today I am bringing you a totally off-the-cuff deck tech video. No fixing in post, we're just going completely raw because it is a personal deck that we are going over. It is a spicy cEDH brew that I have come up with, and I'm pretty proud of myself about. Again, it isn't a blue farm, it isn't the best deck in the format or anything crazy, but it's really fun to play, and for those who say cEDH is not fun to play, you are wrong. It is. It is a great time. Um, but your opinions are totally, yours. Then this is mine. So, without further ado, I am going to be bringing you my Double Trouble Tymna deck. So, as you may already be seeing, Tymna the Weaver and Sakashima of Thousand Faces are my commanders for this deck. The deck itself is a Esper Shell, has some pretty decent stacks pieces in it, some attrition pieces. Um, Again, since we are on the card draw of 2 Tymnas most of the time, we want to have as many creatures as possible and capitalize on that as well. Um, Also, the fact that the reason I built this deck is a lot of, cEDH players, I feel like, excuse me, have said that card advantage wins games. Hence, Blue Farm being the best card advantage, pairing Tymna and Grom in the format, that it's just, it is an overperformer. Unlike other one card combos in the command zone, for example, as a bad example, Italian Food Chain, but more so like Tivit Time Thief. Don't maybe put up as good of numbers as the card advantage creatures in the command zone. So I was like, all right, well maybe I can make something. Maybe there's something there. So Tymna Malcolm, again, a very popular pairing. I was like, I really like both of them, but I feel like if we're going for the card advantage that we want to get, I think 2 Tymnas and capitalizing on all that card draw, that's the route we want to go. And there's definitely some, recently released legendaries that we could also copy and get value off of as well, while attritioning out our opponents, like Talion, Shield of the Apocalypse. And this is what we came up with. Um, Again, really stacksy. Our game plan is to, again, get our creatures out early, get some threats on the board, and then, again, utilizing the card advantage from our commanders to, again, draw into more pieces to stacks our opponents out, because our main win con is Thorkel and Beats. Yep, that's it. Thorkel and Beats. And I will say we have gotten there 1 or 2 games in the few games that I have played. So it is a grindier matchup for sure to play against, but it is a fun grindy matchup to play against. So without further ado, let's go over the deck. So like I said, very creature heavy. We are running 33 creatures in total. I'm just kind of gonna go over the different types of I guess the what's the word I'm looking for? Categorize them based on what I use them for, like stacks, card draw, things like that. So as far as our rule of law effects, we are running technically 3, but as far as in the creature suite, running 2. Archon of Emeria, boom, and then Aethersworn Canonist. We do want to be playing multiple spells a turn if we can, because we want to get multiple creatures out to get in for beats and utilize our Tymna draws to get us card advantage. But we also want to be slowing down our opponents who are on breach lines, storm lines, things like that, and hopefully give ourselves a fighting chance. We also have the kind of tutor. What's the word? I'm going to try and coin a word right now. Thinking, thinking, thinking. The tutor disablers, if you will. Which are Aven Mind Sensor, Aven Mind Sensor, and Opposition Agent. So again, kind of slowing down our opponent's tutoring to help them find answers for our board state. Super helpful in keeping our board alive and strong and healthy to keep our attackers going in with our Tymnos. Just some other notable ones: Boromir, Warden of the Tower. I'm really high on this card. The ability to turn off your opponent's free interaction and especially when they tap out and feel safe because they know they have a Mind Break Trap, a Force of Will, a Force of Negation in hand, and you just pop down a Boromir as your first spell, and then you can safely go into a Consult win with Thoracle. It feels so good. Again, you do have to watch out for those Ottawaras, but uh, it is a great feeling. It gives you the breath of breath of relief, and then your opponents are like, "Whoa, wasn't expecting that." Duelist Mailer, again, really good stack speed that just got released from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Being able to um, slow our opponent's artifact, I wouldn't say production as far as treasures if someone's trying to pop with treasures and dockside loops, but being able to slow them down in that sense as well, not being able to utilize their artifacts the turn they come out is super strong. A lot of times in the few games that I've played, someone just raw dogging a dockside and then making 10 treasures, and then I just go, okay, flesh duplicate your dockside and then get a bunch of advantage, 10 plus obviously worth of treasures, and being able to cast multiple creatures, multiple stacks pieces in a turn, and then slowing their game off completely. Super, super strong. Dalty's in there for the graveyard hate. We're not a super graveyard hate graveyard focused strategy as we are on stacks, but I do have Luris in there as just a way to recur those 2 drops and 1 drop stacks pieces that sometimes get removed. Um, I am on. Well, I shouldn't say I'm on. I am trying out Delaney. She seems pretty sweet for the deck, even though cEDH has a lot of these same similar creatures with 2 power, like Archivist or Ragavan, things like that. It may not necessarily be unblockable, but being able to potentially have a safe attack to get through to get that extra draw with Tymna, super helpful, and being able to double triggers on a lot of our creatures that already are doing things feels really good. So I'm really excited to test her out, especially since she's a human and we do run Cavern of Souls since our commanders are both humans. Being able to have them uncounterable is so good. Um, Adrenaline Vala is a card that I actually picked up in Sisay, and when I started playing Sisay, this was in the main list. I actually have since removed it, but this card is straight gas. With people playing Thrasios, Vile Smasher, or Kinnan, being able to just turn off of all of those effects, but also gain it with Adrenaline Vala and be able to utilize our mana if, again, we have the extra mana to spend, or we need extra mana for, like, let's say there's a Bloom Tender in play and we have our Esper colors out. I can just tap for 3 and then again accelerate into an Elish Norn or something along those lines. Feels really good. And again, slowing down our opponent even more. Drannith, not much to say about him. He's just there because he is good. Being able to play command or decks that rely on their commanders like Obnixilis, Grixis Pirates, things like that, super strong. Turning off people's advantage. Elish Norn, a soft board wipe, but also again we are on that beats route, so in that late game she is just a heavy hitter, putting us over the edge. Now it does turn off Delaney, but at that point we're already again getting around that, pivoting around that turn and getting in for the game, hopefully. Esper Sentinel, standard piece. It's a good card draw in the early game. Fairy Mastermind, it's in there because it is a Tymna attacker. I was on Notion Thief, but I did trim it for Delaney. But being able to activate for 4 mana and then while having a Notion Thief out also feels really strong. Fetch Duplicate, just another clone in the deck. Again, being able to have another clone of another legendary that Sakashima is copying, whether it be a Tymna or a Shieldred or Italian, super good. Again, attritioning our opponents is kind of a sub-plan, I guess you could say, because there are a lot of times where we just copy a Shieldred and have 2 Shieldreds in play where people are taking 4 off the draw. And in a Ristic heavy meta, that just feels really good because people don't really care about it until their life's at, sub 10, 10 life. So then they're like, oh, wait, I can't draw any more cards. Whoops. Grand Abolisher is just in there again. Human, if we are trying to go for the win, that's when we want to slam this. Grim Hireling, all-star, 100%. Being able to get in for the beats and then make the mana from that. Since we are trying to get in for all 3 opponents every time, making 6, sometimes 12 treasures. So sometimes I'll just copy it with Sakashima to get the value I need to be able to do then next turn follow up with an Elish Norn or something along those lines. Super good. I know it's an MVP in Agila. I mean, There's a reason why. Treasures are good. Kitesail Arsonist, again, another human, which is really sweet because it makes it uncounterable, but just being able to remove pesky things that we don't want to see, like multiple run rings, a big Obnixilis. That's never fun, especially when you're running out of chump blockers in the air. Things like that. Just being able to remove it completely feels so good. And again, having that Ward 1 is awesome, just because it's that one extra pip that they don't really want to spend. Um, I will say it is also helpful in our sense if we are trying to play multiple spells a turn, we can actually capitalize on that and get rid of our Archon or Aethersworn if we need to, and then we can also recur it back with Luris as far as Aethersworn. I know Archon's out of the game then, but still pretty good tech. Labman, I did say Thoracle and Beats our only game plan. Labman's kind of in there because again, it is that ability to just win off of top of someone. Where if we have a tie-in trigger on the stack, we can go um, trigger on the stack, console, and then with the draw on the stack, we win. It is a little more riskier because then we can just play another 2-drop spell or whatever number we have on it. But, and it's also risky in the sense that they could remove our lab man with an auto water, things like that. But we have the ability to protect our lab man if they try to go to remove him in response to the draw with Mother of Runes and Giver of Runes, which is pretty good. Bowmaster, it's Bowmaster. We're in a Bowmaster's meta. I will say I haven't come across too many Bowmasters with this list yet. I'm waiting for a game where I'm playing against maybe three other black players where they have a Bowmaster actively in play. But I feel like a lot of the times, while it may be bad that we're on so many creatures again with 2 power, that our stuff dies relatively easily. But most of the time, if you think about it, when someone's playing a Bowmasters, they're killing the other Bowmasters in play. Yeah, if they don't have one, it probably is picking a couple of our things, but in the long run, a lot of the times, we're also stopping other players, which helps the other player get ahead a little bit. So it kind of puts us in this weird situation where we are the threat, but aren't the threat at the moment in time because we're helping them get to where they need to be. But we need to make sure that we're able to stop them when it comes to it. Again, these are all my opinions, just saying. Phyrexian Metamorph, again, just another clone. Being able to copy the One Ring, being able to copy another legendary, super strong. Ranger Captain, being able to go grab a Esper Sentinel or a Sarah Ascendant, again, Giver of Runes, Mother of Runes, just value creatures, super good. I am also, when I was building this deck, I was looking for like sweet Esper cards, like Esper creatures, and this one came up, Scheming Fence. I'm just going to read this to you for those of you who are just kind of maybe listening in the background. It is a 2-drop white and blue, 2/3. So that has a little bit of a butt. Human Citizen. As Scheming Fence enters the battlefield, you may choose a non-land permanent. Activated abilities of the chosen permanent can't be activated. And then Scheming Fence has all activated abilities of the chosen permanent except for loyalty abilities. You may spend mana as though it were any color to activate those abilities. So essentially, how this card works is One Ring. Let's say 2 of your opponents have One Ring in play, and you just slam this puppy down. Let's say he's uncounterable because you named Human with Cavern. ETB, name One Ring. Turns off both their One Rings. They'll just start taking damage, and then we have a One Ring with no burden because we don't have the ability of the lose a life attached to it. It's just put a burden counter on them, draw X cards, which is really sweet. Really like this card. Also, sometimes I should say one game. I shouldn't say sometimes. One game I played, I didn't have a Mana Crypt in play, but 2 of my opponents did. So I went, okay, Scheming Fence, Mana Crypt. So they have a chance of taking 3 damage on their turn. I shut off their Mana Crypts, and then I now have a Mana Crypt so I can ramp. It's been pretty sweet. I thought about maybe testing it in Tivit because I am a Tivit player. So more on that later. Sarah Senate, just a good beater. Again, really focusing on the beat strategy here. So 2 of my favorite cards in this deck, Shield of the Apocalypse and Talion, the Kindly Lord. First off, I love these arts. These are 2 of my favorite arts for these cards. But these 2 are kind of our backup plan. If we have this out before we cast Sakashima, this is what we are copying. Because, again, there are times, since there are other creatures on the battlefield and we can't get through for that attack, being able to just copy one of these effects to attrition our opponents more and hurt their life total by not attacking them and hitting them through combat damage feels really, really good. Again, people are drawing cards with Mystics, it does start to deter them as they get to a lower life total to deter them from drawing extra cards off those types of enchantments like Rhystic and Mystic, which is really sweet. Um, so a lot of times I will try and clone them over a Tymna, but there are times where I just clone 2 Tymnas. Thada Adele is one I'm also trying out. Another member of our channel, Wyatt, recommended it, being that you can seal a One Ring or just ramp in general, which feels really good. You can also steal a Time Sea from Tivit and other things. And since it is a 2/2 unblockable, not only does it double trigger with Delaney if she's in play, but it also is a free Tymna draw with Tymna because it gets in no matter what. Because everyone's usually playing islands. Most of the time, there's always that one island player, and then Thorkel, just because it's another win condition. So those are the creatures. Again, also can't forget Malcolm. I threw him in there because again, since I am on Delaney, and being able to trigger that twice and get 2 treasures, and we also have a few other pirates in the deck, not many, one. It just seemed reasonable. One thing I am contemplating as far as this list thus far is, do we lean off of Sakashima and go Tymna Malcolm and just do a new brew? And kind of focus on that strategy. Again, maybe not as much stacks. But I don't know. It's definitely something, food for thought. So moving on to the sorceries. As I said, our game plan is mainly playing creatures on our turn. But we do have 3 sorceries in the deck. Pretty much staples: Imperial Seal, Demonic Tutor, and Windfall. Um, I really like Mnemonic Betrayal. It's one of my favorite, potential win cards, especially in the late game since we are on a stacks list and kind of going for that long game. But since a lot of times we have a Rule of Law effect in play, it doesn't feel as good or as safe to play. Um, but I think with maybe like some testing, I might reconsider it because it is a good card. And it also is just a good card to pitch to Force of Will or Force of Negation in the long run. Instance. Again, we are on 17, so kind of low, but since we are creature heavy, it makes sense. We can't be into the 20 range or 20 plus. But standard counter suite for sure. Offer. We are on Doven's Veto, which is a little kind of off the beaten track, but being able to have it not be countered is relevant, especially because one thing that this deck tends to fold to is board wipes. Now, while we can't protect against all of them, um, this does kind of help us stay alive a little longer. That's also why Everybody Lives is in here. Not only does it protect our board against a Dam, Supreme Verdict, um, and like a Fire Covenant, but being able to protect our board and also potentially have those corner case situations where we cast it when someone's trying to win through a Thoracle line and saves us to live an extra turn to get in for the final swing. Super, super good. I know it does stink when someone casts a Languish or a Toxic Deluge, which are definitely common. I would say Toxic Deluge more than Languish in the format, because that just does hurt us because we can't really get around that besides through counter magic. That's why kind of Rule of Law effects are very good. We're usually using our counter spells to counter those types of spells to keep our stacks pieces alive, which are slowing or attritioning our opponents to death. Um, Again, going back to the standard counter package: Fierce, Fluster, Force of Negation, Force of Will, Mental Misstep, Mindbreak Trap, Swan Song. And then really everything else is pretty much stock. The only thing, as far as, you might think is weird, besides the Everybody Lives, is the Sullen Half. This card I have tested and I am really liking it because I can not only play it offensively, I can play it defensively. Again, in most cases, we have 1 or 2 stacks pieces out, and usually I try and get Sakashima out during the game at some point. But being able to Sullen half a normal stacks piece to get 2 of, as long as it's not a legendary creature, it feels really good because you can protect your creatures that way. But also, if we have a Sakashima in play, we can also, If someone tries to remove another creature, we can saw in half the Sakashima, copy that, and then copy our Tymna again or whatnot, which feels really strong. But also you can just go, okay, I'm gonna have Sakashima come into play as a copy of a Shieldred. I'm gonna saw and have it and get 3 copies or 3 Italians, like 3 Elesh Norns. It is just so silly but so strong. Taking 6 off a draw feels really good for us because we're like essentially killing our opponents uh, relatively quickly, especially if they are trying to draw a lot of cards in a turn, whatnot. Someone goes to wheel, um, or even Italian. Someone trying to go off through 3 Italians on 2, or even diversifying it up and going 2 on 2, 1 on 1 seems really tough for our opponents. Which is again one of the reasons I have Saw in half, because it is just an overperformer. I feel like it's just good value, but it's also good protection for our pieces that need it. Silence again just helps us stop our opponents from winning and help us get through our game, or we can keep protect our win with Authorical Line on our turn. Um, Moving on to artifacts, standard artifact package. The usual suspects. Haha, hint from Mark Karlov's Murders at Karlov Manor. Um, Grafdigger's Cage is our only kind of stacks piece in the artifacts suite. I don't run Weathered Runestone. I'm considering it. It is definitely a good card. I just know that as far as Grafdiggers, it stops a lot of decks already. And we're not on Cursed Totem because we are on Jana Linvala, because we do have a lot of activated abilities with our creatures, which is relevant. And then we're on the One Ring because, again, One Ring is good. Um, and then as far as enchantments, so pretty standard Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, Blind Obedience being, again, really came out in the past couple months as one of the best staples in the format as far as in white goes. If you're on white, you're probably running counterbalance. Get to that in a minute. You're on Blind Obedience. Again, slowing your opponents down is so strong, and not having Dockside Loops pop off right away, super good. Counterbalance. You're probably wondering, why is this dude running Counterbalance? Well, first off, it is my pet card. I love this card. It is my ride or die card. I put it in almost everything. I ran it in my blue farm deck for a while. Took it out just because it's more of my tournament deck. I run it in my Tivit deck. I run it in this deck. So any pretty much almost any blue deck I play, I put this in just because it's a fun card. It's also very good though. There are times when it's overperforms, but then there are times where it underperforms. But the reason I still have it in is because since we're only on 17 instants, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, so 9 cards out of the whole deck, so almost a tenth of the deck being counter magic to protect our board. This being able to potentially increase that counter magic value to me is relevant. Even though we're not on top, I think it's still beneficial because it makes your opponents play around counterbalance. And while it does give them information when you do reveal off the top, most of the time we're not really a combo strategy. So we're not really what's the word? Goodness, I can't think of it right now. Oh my goodness. Can't think of the word. Not showcasing. It's I can't even think of it. But essentially we're not, showing our opponents that, hey, we're going for the win, right? We are not goodness, I can't think of that word. Foretell. No, it's not foretell. It'll come to me. I'll fix it later on. Deafening Silence is in the deck. Again, a great stacks piece using against our opponents who are on more of a turbo strategy. Since we are able to play more than one creature per turn, super, super good. Because again, we're not on a ton of artifacts, we're not on a ton of enchantments, but being able to play this and then a bunch of our creatures after that, super, super good. Mystical Aristic, again, just staple draw pieces in the format. Oh, I figured out the word. Telegraphing. Telegraphing our plays to our opponents. So really we're not telegraphing anything. Yeah, we might play this big beater in a couple turns, but like, that we may have it, but we're not really telegraphing the win of any kind. Lands. Pretty straightforward. Again, 3-color mana base. We're on the usual suspects as well here. Otawara. I am on Seachrome Coast and Darkslick Shores, since we are pretty aggressive. Again, they haven't been too bad for me in the sense that where they had to come in tapped. So far, they've been performing pretty well. We are on Miyama since we are on the One Ring, and being able to untap Italian or a potential blocker, very good. Cavern, because a lot of our commanders alone are both human, but also a lot of our other stacks pieces, other creatures are humans as well, which is just good redundancy. It's a no-brainer to run that. So yeah. I am considering a couple cards. I really like Grand Arbiter. Being able to reduce our spells while we are in black as well feels pretty good. But one thing I've noticed, because I did try Thalia Grand Therabrand as well, is that a lot of times opponents don't account for that extra mana, the one generic mana they have to spend in order to cast a spell. Um, and it also has lost me games because I don't have the one to pay to that mental misstep that I need to, mental misstep to that silence. So it's kind of also backfired as well in that sense. So I'm not super, super high on the mana increase per se, the Thorn Abandonment effects, where we're increasing the cost of spells. So yeah. But that is the deck. Really fun to play. I encourage you guys to comment on this list. Please let me know. I'd love to hear feedback. I really would love to make this deck, again, not a meta deck, but like it'd be kind of cool to take this to a local tournament or a lower head count cEDH tournament, like maybe a 64 player or smaller cEDH event, and maybe top 16. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, kind of a cool accomplishment for this deck. I did contemplate putting in Teferi and Kitten, because again, Kitten is just good, being able to blink our clones, like Flesh Duplicate, like Sakashima, but I just couldn't find cuts. That is the hard part. Another card that was just released, Doorkeeper Thrall. Very good card, very good stacks piece, but unfortunately several of our creatures have ETBs, like Scheming Fence, like Kitesell Arsonist. I mean, that's really it. But I kind of want to run that as well. I just don't know what to cut for it. Again, it's a really tight list as far as creatures go. I mean, you're like 33. Wow, you have plenty of options, but it's really tough. But yeah, I mean, it definitely could evolve. I could definitely see, seeing other people. And maybe you have a similar list out there. I would love to know. Maybe we could talk shop on it. But yeah, this is my list. I really enjoy playing it. I hope you guys enjoy this deck tech. I know it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I appreciate you guys for watching. So we'll see you next time on Wintuition MTG, the 6th Sense of EDH.